Happy Monday, everybody. Kristen here. You get me live and raw this morning. It is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous outside today. So I'm sitting on my back porch as I do this live video. I was really triggered last week, and I know that a lot of other people are struggling with some similar things, and I wanted to kind of share my experience and to share a little bit about how I worked through it. So I want to preface this with saying that this is definitely going to probably be my most raw live stream to date. And one of the things that I'm working on is definitely being more vulnerable and open with my own personal struggles. So the topic of this live stream is criticism, judgment, and emotional eating. And while we kind of expect that there's going to be criticism from people who don't know you, there's typically also criticism from people who do know you. And there's criticism about what you eat, when you eat. There's probably criticism about why did you decide to have this procedure, yada, yada, yada. So I think everybody kind of experiences that in the beginning when you're going through this process. And that's just part of it, right? And I want to say it's normal. Hey, Tina. So I want to say that that's normal. Now, as someone who's almost 5 years out, that's not specific to what I'm struggling with. So to kind of give you a little bit of an inside view, so I grew up with very critical, judgy parents. I'm the daughter of a narcissist who has since passed, and I kind of thought that it was all him. And after spending the last week or so a lot around my mother, I realized it was not just him, and it's also her. And the things that I've experienced have been like tear downs and picks, and like when somebody picks at you and it's like you can't do anything right, and it's almost like, it reminds me of like a woodpecker. So where somebody just picks, and it's not weight related, it's not food related, it's just at the very core picking that person apart. And the thing that I have come to realize is that when somebody is criticizing you and when somebody is judging you, that says a lot more about them than it says about you. However, when you're in it, it's really heavy. And when you're experiencing it, it's very personal. And we take those things, especially from the people that are closest to us, very, very personal. And I would like to also preface this with, there are two types of people in this world. The people that what matters to you most is what the people closest to you think, or the people who you may not care what people closest to you think, but then you care what everybody else thinks. And then there are, maybe three groups of people. The third group would be people who you care what everybody thinks, right? It doesn't matter because you have this extreme fear of being judged, or this extreme fear of being criticized. And so for me, I can take it most of the time because I can slough it off and just, okay, moving on. But when you are in situations, and like I was this last week, where you're around someone 24/7 and it's just overwhelming, you know, where they're like, well, why are you doing this? And how come you're not doing that? And of course you're this way, and of course you're that way. And then they're passing these judgments on you. It makes you feel, first of all, intimidated. It makes you feel less than. It makes you feel not enough. It makes you feel insignificant. And in my experience, the journals that I wrote was, I felt like I was 5 again. I felt like I was being minimized. I felt like an idiot. I felt like more than just a child, but I felt like I couldn't do anything right. And even when I tried, that was minimized. And so, you know, the specifics don't matter, but you'll know what I'm talking about because you know who in your life does this to you consistently. You'll know if it's people who you're closest to, you'll know if it's friends, you'll know if it's family, and you'll know that no matter when you get around them, they'll consistently do this. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the things that I noticed when I was in this situation was that because in my house, I don't keep a lot of junk. Like, I just don't. And we sure don't have ice cream, although ice cream is not a trigger food for me, but I don't keep that in my house. And there was like ice cream laying around my mom's house. And so one of the things that I started to notice was I was paying attention that it was there. And I caught myself thinking about it on more than one occasion. And I caught myself thinking about, well, nobody's going to know if I'm going to have some. And I started to go into, well, let me just go eat it real quick. Like, these were the thoughts that were going through my head. And I didn't link it with the, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term, emotional abuse, the criticism and the judgment. I didn't link it at that time. I just knew that I was extremely uncomfortable. I was extremely anxious. I was extremely overwhelmed. And I just wanted to escape because I just felt that my personal space was being encroached on. So at that time, I was like, hey, Maria, I was like, hey, what is this really about? And so I pulled out my journal because it's not on my plan, right? So I'm doing all the things that I would do. Is I pulled out my journal and I start writing, like, what is this about? And I recognized, hey, Alicia, I recognized that my trigger was what my mother was saying to me, the fact that she was picking me apart. And apparently, she was picking everything apart. Like, oh, you're not a good mom. Oh, you're working again? I thought you were off today. Like, I guess you don't have any time for your family. You don't take care of your husband. Have you ever thought about him? Like, just very accusing, hurtful comments that are deemed to separate, that are deemed to, again, criticize and judge and pull that person apart. And they were very hurtful. And so what I recognized was that my pull to the ice cream was not about me being physically hungry at all. It was about trying to numb the minimization that I felt. Hey, Keisha, it was about numbing how I felt. It was about avoiding feeling small. It was about how not to feel that pain that the person who brought me into this world was doing her very best to make me feel like shit. However, I don't know that she actually sees that. I don't know that she actually knows that. Because, hey, Beth, I think that's about her shit, not about mine. So in some way, I feel that maybe I trigger her, that maybe I'm doing things that she couldn't do for her. Okay, so I'm pulling this apart. And the good news is I didn't go to the ice cream, but I wanted to. I really, really wanted to. And I recognized the link that at almost 5 years out, I'm still triggered by people in my life, by situations in my life that I want to go numb. I don't want to feel those feelings. I don't want to actually come face to face with someone who is so close to me that they may not even see that every little thing that they're doing is for the purpose of tearing me down. And because I don't want to get in a cycle of judging her. Do you get this, Alicia? Are you with me? Because I don't want to get into the cycle of judging her, I'm trying to shift my view to a place of compassion, which is hard because I just want to go, right? I just want to be like, F you. I'm trying to go to a place of compassion that is like, wow, what might she be experiencing? You know, why is it that her focus needs to be on me to make her feel better? Like, why is it that she has to tear me down to make her feel better? And even when I kind of tried to confront her on, I think it was Friday night, and I said, you know, you just need to stop with the judgment. Just stop with the judgment. Stop with the little, you know, the comments. Stop with trying to tear me down. And her denial was so thick that let me know that she had no clue. Because her response was, well, you know, if I'm gone or if I died, I bet you'd be sorry. What? Are you kidding me right now? Like, are you serious? So like her lack of awareness shows me that she has no clue, absolutely no clue. And maybe her intentions are, I don't know how they could be good, but maybe they are. Maybe she thinks she's going to make me a better person. Maybe she thinks she wants me to be more like her. I have no idea, but I am my own person. And I am someone who's very stubborn, against the grain, does my own thing, like very much a free spirit. Like, I'm not going to be more like you. Like, I'm very different. Hey, Angie. So when the attacks, when the attacks just come, and they come like in little bullets, like over and over and over, where it's kind of like, it's almost like, even though the words are not, you're not good enough, the essence of it is, you're not doing it right. You're not good enough. No matter what you do, you're failing. Like, those words are not the words that are used, but the undertone, the underbelly of it is that. And so when you hear that enough, what is the coping mechanism that you've used most often in your entire life? And mine was food. And here's what was the epiphany, which is why I had to come on this live stream this morning. I was in the car driving my son, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about, okay, I do want to do this live stream here. Beth, oh my gosh, are we like this, right? So when I was huge, right, the comments, I never felt them like I feel them now. At least I don't remember feeling them. Okay, but stay with me here. This is important. So I didn't feel them because I ate them. Because I didn't allow myself to feel them, because there was no process. There was, oh, there's pain, and then there's pizza. Oh, there's pain, and then there's ice cream. Oh, there's pain, and then there's some cookies. Let's go bake something. Let's go make something. Let's go make a cake. Let's go bake something. Let's go eat something. Thank you, Maria. Like, let's go, like, shove it down. And so now that I'm at this point, right, which you guys can identify with post surgery, where you've lost the weight, right? We're working on changing those habits. This is a lifestyle change. It's, you know, a marathon. It's not a sprint. Where we're like, okay, now I have to deal with these feelings, right? Now they're coming at me, right? And now my shield of fat is gone. Now what do I do? Right? So the thoughts and the feelings of, okay, I need to go eat something are still there. But now I know that's not serving me. That's not serving me. That's not going to get me to where I want to go. That's not going to help me. So what can I do differently? I've got to pull these pieces apart, which, by the way, is not easy. And I know a lot of people go, well, you're a therapist. That should be easy. You know how to do this. No, I'm human too. And I don't think with a therapy brain when I'm doing this stuff on myself. Like, I'm just like everybody else. So I have to go into my toolbox just like you guys do. And I have to say, okay, what is the meaning of this? What is the feeling that goes through this? And I had a session with my coach early this morning. And we kind of worked on some things because I brought this up to her and said, you know, this was a huge trigger. And I had to go in and, you know, she asked me, like, how did you feel in that moment? How, you know, what was going on for you when you were experiencing this? And I was like, yeah, I was experiencing like this shame. I was experiencing this minimization that no matter what I do, I'm not good enough, that no matter how hard I try, that nothing is good enough, that I'm not grateful enough, that I'm not whatever enough. And I feel like we are all experiencing that with different people in our lives. Beth just said this is exactly the relationship with her sister. Alicia said something about, you know, she's gotten that response from her mother before. Like, I knew I needed to come on to speak into this because I know that we'll experience this. And the thing is that there was no criticism made about my weight, which used to happen. But now it's like, wow, you look so awesome. Like, I put on a bathing suit, we went swimming. She told me how great I looked. And it wasn't the nitpick about the appearance, right? So I wasn't nitpicked about my appearance, which was a first, but it was more of the other things that were picked apart. Okay, so the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is that people in your lives will switch, right? So the old you, when you were big, they were like, oh, you know, you need to do something, like you're heavy, you're fat, you need to do this or you need to do that. And then when you get past a certain point, it may not be about your weight, because maybe they're like, wow, you're doing great. But then they'll nitpick you on other things. They'll nitpick you about your job, or they'll nitpick you about your relationship, or they'll nitpick you about your house. You know, oh, your house is never clean, or there's always that mother or mother-in-law that comes in and like tries to, mine doesn't do this, but, surprisingly, but it's, you know, oh, look, it's dusty. Like, I have a client whose mom or mother-in-law will come in her house and be like, walk around with white socks. Like, how sick is that? And then, oh, wow, look at my socks got all dirty in your house. I guess you don't clean very often. So there's the judgment and the criticism can eat you up. So my point in telling you guys this today is that we've got to work backwards. Okay. First of all, we've got to recognize how we're feeling when it's happening, right? Because just like me and my thoughts didn't go to, how can I fix this? I'm getting judged. My thoughts went to, I know there's ice cream in the fridge. There's a lot of ice cream in the fridge. That's where my brain went. And so where's your brain going to go? Your brain is probably going to go to a similar place. Like, you know, beeline. Oh, now it's, I'm not a good enough daughter or a good enough mom. And yes, my house. Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. I'm with you. So, but our brains will make a beeline for what's in the refrigerator or what can I munch on? And that was another thing that I thought of when I was there, was like, what can I put in my mouth? What can I put in my mouth? Because I was looking for things to soothe. And I just remember going, why are you mentally hungry right now? Like, that was my initial question, not from judgment of myself, but more of like, okay, like, this is not you. This is not your normal routine. Like, I know you're out of place. This is my self-talk. I know you're out of place. Like, you're not in your house right now. You're not staying in your house. Like, what is it? Is it that they have different food here? Like, what is it? And that's when I made the connection. Like, oh, you're overwhelmed. Like, you're stressed because you're being criticized and you're being judged. And it's not happening like in a moment. It's happening like almost like an AK-47, like, you know, I don't know if they even do that, but anyways, it's like I felt like I was getting sprayed with these emotional bullets of criticism and judgment. I had no shield, right? Because the fat used to be my shield. So I have no shield. And we all learn growing up, don't disrespect your mother, don't talk back. And so it's like you're taking it. And finally on Friday night was when I was like, look, I'm not taking this anymore. And I was respectful about it. I was kind, but I disengaged. And this is also where boundaries come in. Like, I knew when I was coming back home, and haven't had much conversation since. At some point I want to either write a letter or, have a conversation. But again, remember I mentioned this earlier. If you guys just popped on, listen to the replay. But when I confronted her, she was like, oh, you're going to be sad when I'm gone. Like, total denial of the situation. So she has no insight. So it's like, it's also this, if they're not going to hear you, right, then what's the point of saying anything? If their reaction is to continue to minimize you, then is this the point where you disengage with the relationship, or you set boundaries on what kind of relationship you want to have? And like, you set up boundaries on, okay, here come the criticism and judgment. Oh, look at the time, we have to go. Because that's not something that I want to, expose my son to either. So it's a very dysfunctional relationship, obviously, and I'm aware of that. And as a result, I'm working on doing things different with my son, and I'm looking at how I'm behaving with him. So it's also like making me more aware of like how I treat him, and not to be like guilt provoking or anything like that, because that's what I came from. So I think this is another lesson for us. Like, how are we taking on their, like, whoever these people are, their traits, and using them in other areas of our lives, if at all? Because this cycle can perpetuate if we don't stop it. And I recognize that the criticism and the judgment that I experienced as a child and as an adult has led me to somewhat, like, in some ways become judgy. And so I have been doing my own like judgment detox in a way where I utilize like different prayers and different like mantras and different things to release judgment. And I try to look for love in people instead of fear, because judgment comes out of fear. Judgment and criticism is coming from the place of fear. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of A Course in Miracles, but basically what they talk about is that there's just two main emotions, or two main, the dichotomy of love and fear. So if we're not coming from a place of love in terms of our actions and thoughts and behaviors, then we're coming from a place of fear. So ego is out of a place of fear. If we're acting out of ego, if we're acting out of judgment and criticism, it's usually out of fear. If we're coming out of compassion, that's coming from a place of love. Okay, so do you guys kind of get where I'm coming from? So one of the things that I ask myself when I'm let's say in my own head judging someone or something, is this coming from a place of love, or is this coming from a place of fear? And this is one of the main questions that I'll ask. Is this coming from a place of love, or is this coming from a place of fear? And that usually helps me like snap out of it. And then I also practice like different forgiveness, like for myself, forgiveness of others in terms of different situations. But the mom thing, I think, is a lot harder. And here's why. Because that primary relationship that you have with a parent, whether it's your mother or your father, is so deeply personal. That's my air conditioning going on. That freaked me out. I usually don't sit out on the back porch because it's like 67 degrees here. So I don't even know why it's turning on. But anyway, so it's so deeply personal that we wonder, like, that's the person who brought you into this world. So we tend to think of it as like unconditional love. Like, we expect that person would unconditionally love us, and yet so many people in the bariatric community have had such dysfunctional familial relationships because we've maybe only experienced conditional love, or again, there's this criticism and judgment, or again, what happened in my family was, and this is another sick thing, but like my parents like pit us against one another, like in terms of like competitive, instead of like helping us support one another. It was just a dynamic that they had. And again, my own judgment is to say that it's sick and twisted, and that's coming from a place of like, wow, like, hey Charlotte, like, wow, like, where did they come from that they had to pit us against one another? Like, so again, are we coming at it from a place of compassion and love, or are we coming at it from a place of fear? And so I think it's easy, and our defense mechanisms go, you know what, F them, screw them. Like, you know, I'm better off without them. And it's harder to say, how can I repair this relationship? How can I see them through the eyes of love? And how can I attempt to love them through their own, I don't want to call it sickness, through their own dysfunctionality, right? How can I show them compassion for their attempts to hurt me because they're uncomfortable with my growth? See, one of the things that I noticed was I didn't get criticized as much. I did when I was like 400 pounds. Oh, girl. Okay, yes. So I did get criticized, but it was mostly for my weight. But it was, you know, you're so pretty, it's such a shame. Or you're so smart, it's such a shame. Like, you know, like I had leprosy or something. But now that I'm thinner, it's, oh my gosh, you're so busy, you don't have enough time for your family. Or, how are you going to do that? Oh, you're always working. Work out. Shouldn't you be taking care of the house? When are you going to do the laundry? Like, again, like criticism, judgment. And not like, wow, I mean, there's an occasional, I'm so proud of you, and it usually is followed with a but. Like, I'm so proud of you, but, or, you know, it's not really, I'm so proud of you, period. It's usually followed by a criticism where, again, you're not doing it right, or you're not good enough. And she was a working mom. So I'm like, don't you remember like all those long hours you put in? And it's still not good enough. And so what I have to say is, in my mind, like, am I shining so bright that my light bothers you? That my light bothers you? I can't think of anything else. Or is it that you want me to feel like crap all the time? So one of the things that I've started to do is journal a lot of this stuff out and talk it out in my voice memos. And what I have also been trying to do is practice compassion for their inability to handle my light, because I am not shrinking. And what I mean by that is not physically. Yes, I'm physically shrinking, but I'm not gonna dim my light to make you feel better. I want you guys to write that down. I am not going to dim my light to make you feel better or to make you comfortable. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Their criticism is their stuff, not yours. It'll make you feel like it's yours, but it's not. And when you go to reach for something, the ice cream, the pizza, the whatever it is, that you know you're emotionally eating. I'm not talking like you plan to go on an ice cream date with your kid and that's your one planned ice cream date for the summer. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like it's 9 o'clock at night and you're so uncomfortable that you're thinking about what's in the fridge. And you can even tell by how I said it. Like it's constricting. It's like out of desperation. It's not coming from a place of again, it's coming out of fear. It's not coming from a place of love. Because it's not of love, right? The criticism, the judgment, it's not of love. So I'm asking for you guys to take a look. And I'm using me as an example. Where do you see this in your life? And when you experience this, how do you dim your light? Journal entry number 1. How do you dim your light? Traditionally, right? So is it that you go and eat? Is it that you go silent, you feel small, whatever? And I want you to shift, right? What can you do differently to not dim your light? What is it that you can do to not let these people get to you? right? And when I say people, it could be one person, it could be two people, it could be your whole family. It could be your best friend. But their criticism of you is triggering you. Their judgment of you and your lifestyle or whatever is triggering you. And you being triggered can be about you and food and you and your emotions. But their judgment and their criticism is not about you. So I want you to like make that distinction. Hey, Susan Ann, I want you to make that distinction. So there's a difference in their criticism and their judgment and then what you do about it. Like what you decide to take on and accept from them and what you reject. Because I learned over the weekend, that's not my stuff. That is not my stuff. That's your stuff, not mine. I'm not going to take it. And again, my favorite phrase, I am not going to dim my light to make you feel comfortable. Not going to happen. That's what I got out of this whole process. That it is an attempt to make them feel comfortable because they're not growing. They're not growing themselves, and so they have to pick at you to bring you down to make themselves feel better. And so when everybody's tearing one another down, it's almost like this pig pile where they're trying to climb up the top. And I know Charlotte said that's the family dynamic. Hey, Jason. So that's the family dynamic. So what I want you guys to think about is how can you shift that family dynamic? And by the way, I'm not talking like big overtures, like, let's make a speech or anything like that. But where you just disengage, where you're just like, yeah, I'm and then what's going to happen is, what's wrong? What's wrong? Are you mad? Is something happening? Like, where they're like coming at you. And you've just got to like look at them and look at what they're trying to get, because they're trying to get a reaction out of you, because that's what, again, makes them feel better. When they are criticizing and judging you, and then they're like, at least in my situation, it was like, what did I do? I was just trying to, tell you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you were trying to like, pull me down. You were trying to make me feel small. And so they'll act all innocent. So what's important for you to recognize, why was that necessary? Right. And so what's really interesting is then, again, Charlotte, what I'll see is like, almost like cluelessness. Like, why was what necessary? What are you talking about? Like total denial, total like, and at least in my situation with my mother, she's completely very passive aggressive, where totally in denial will like swoop in and just, and so again, and I know Jason just popped on, Susan Ann popped on, we're talking about emotional triggers and overcoming emotional eating in situations where you're criticized and judged by family members and friends. So, and I'm talking about a situation I had right before the weekend, where all I could think about was ice cream. I didn't go for the ice cream, but it was one of those things that, when you say, why was that necessary? And then they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, and again, it shows their lack of awareness into what they're doing. And I'm not giving that an excuse. I'm not saying that they get a, get out of jail free card or anything. It's just that they have no awareness that they're so triggered by you, that they're so intimidated by your growth because they're not growing. And they're so unaware of it that they've got to pick at you and pull at you. And first of all, none of us are perfect and none of us are getting out of this life alive. So like we all have an expiration date. So I think the idea that we're pulling each other down is so related to ego. And it's so related to ego. And if you guys don't know what ego is, it's edging God out, right? Ego, edging God out. So it's that darkness that everybody has inside of them. It is the ego is that fear-based principle. So when I talked earlier about fear and love, are you acting out of a place of fear or are you acting out of a place of love? And so when someone goes, oh, you're wearing those pants again, don't you think they're a little too tight? Or, are you really going to eat that? Or, is that on your plan? Or if they say things about your motherhood, or, wow, looks like you haven't had an opportunity to do laundry. Maybe if you didn't work so much, oh, you're a mess. When was the last time you showered? I mean, I can't even imagine, but these are all things that, people could say to one another that are condescending, they're sarcastic, they're all out of fear. They're all attacking. And, some of which may be passive aggressive. And it's important to know when you're triggered, how you're triggered, and then to kind of, I don't know that we could ever process our responses ahead of time. I've tried, it just doesn't happen. I still feel it, right? And, there's that saying, he who angers you controls you. Yet it's fascinating because I think, like, how can we, like, be so at peace, right? It's something to work on. How can we be so at peace that we can just look at somebody and go, wow, that's about you. That's not about me. Like, that takes superior growth, right? I'm not even there yet, because she was like, I was fuming, like, and I think that it's something definitely to aspire to. I didn't act out. I didn't yell. I didn't do any of those things. But I also recognized this wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. And your situation is not about you. But it's important that you maybe look at, how might they be intimidated by your growth? How is it that they see you shining your light and it's bothering them? It's intimidating them because they can't, or they won't do what you've done for you. Okay? So look at that. And on one hand, they might go, I'm really happy for you. And on the other, they're sticking a dagger in your back, metaphorically, not actually, but where they're saying things to undermine you, that are condescending, that are critical, that are judgmental. So what I want you to do is to look at, how are they afraid of you? And you might go, why would they be afraid of me? I don't have anything. But why are they afraid of you shining your light? What does that do for them or to them? If you shine too bright, what happens to them? Think about that. Think about that. So, I think that this is very important for you to recognize, for you, in terms of the next steps and the connection to your emotional hunger. Not your physical hunger, but your emotional hunger. Because for many people, this is the missing piece to reactivity. So responding versus reacting. And when you are able to recognize what your triggers are, you'll be able to change, to behave differently. And you'll be able to see, like, I'm acting when I reach for the food, I'm acting out of fear, not from a place of love and trust, because I'm not leaning in to those emotions out of fear. I'm reaching for something that's going to soothe me, instead of going, wow, I've got to work through this. I've got to reach the next level, right? So this is why I wanted to come on and talk to you guys today about this, because this is definitely a process. This is not a one and done, and you're probably likely going to be triggered by a bunch of different people, not just one person. And it's going to happen in different ways. I've seen where people at work are triggered by other people at work, or best friends, or what have you. So, I mean, there are definitely journaling prompts for this. And also, in terms of the awareness of, where has this happened in your life, and how have you dealt with it in the past? And now, since having surgery, how will you deal with it? Again, I recognized that my fat was a shield, and so it was like it absorbed some of the pain, because I just would go and eat. So now that I'm not eating, and now that you're not eating, where is it that you go? Where do you have that outlet? Are you working out? Are you putting on music? Are you journaling? Are you calling someone to talk about it? Are you, integrating self-care? I went and I talked to my husband, and he was like, she's like this, let it go. That was like slightly helpful, but not very much, because I did feel like, how am I supposed to let this go? But what I did feel in some further talks with him is I felt supported, and I felt heard, and I felt understood. And sometimes we need that. We need to feel heard. We need to feel understood. We need to feel validated that, because originally I was like, am I crazy? Like, I had talked to a couple girlfriends last week, and I talked to my coach this morning. I was like, is this normal? Like, am I crazy that I'm experiencing this? And they were like, no, like, this is real. Like, I don't know if I go as far as saying emotional abuse, but this is like condescending. This is like criticism. This is judgment. This is like, breaking down your emotional self. And, that's what this is. And so, but yet again, if I would talk to my mom, she'd be like, you're being ridiculous. Like, you're just sensitive. Like, or like if I was like, hey, this is really bothering me, complete denial. So it's also important that we set boundaries, right? With, like, I don't know that I'm going to be going over there anytime soon for, a 4-day weekend adventure or anything. Not until I do some deeper work on me, to where I'm either able to have a deeper conversation or resilient enough that I can, like, let that, people say, like, let that shit go. Like, but that's not where I'm at. And so I think that is, for each of our journeys, it's important to know, where am I at? So here's another question for you. Where am I at? Where am I at in this relationship? What can I take and what can I not take? What boundaries do I need to set? And that means, like, oh yeah, you're so sensitive. Yeah, actually I am a highly sensitive person. I'm an empath, but I don't think that's not what this is about. This is about you being cruel, like, and judgy and critical, and that's not about me. Yes. Oh my gosh, Christine. I love this. That's okay. I have to read this comment, and I'm going to give it a little love. The fat absorbs the pain because it's its own entity. When that is gone, all that's left is you. That's scary because any judgment falls directly on who you are. That is, you get to decide who you are and own it. I love that. I love that. Yes, yes, yes. I completely agree. So when it falls on who you are, right, then we get to decide, like, is this my dirty laundry? Is this judgment actually part of me? No. So then we can, no thanks, that's not me, or take it. But I think a lot of times we take that judgment because we're so used to taking the judgment. So no, that's not mine, that's yours. That's your stuff, that's not my stuff. But setting boundaries in terms of what you'll allow on phone calls, what you'll allow in person, what you need to have a conversation about, et cetera, et cetera. And then in terms of the emotional piece, like, now that I'm back home and I'm journaling about it and working through it, the other thing I want to say is I wrote a post in Mindset Mavens this morning, Bariatric Mindset Mavens, and I was like, we all go through stuff. We all have obstacles. And so what I want to remind you is that even though this is like a tough thing, it's like, oh, like this is another thing that I'm working through, which some people would be like, ugh, more stuff. But it's like, I know once I've worked through this, like I'm going to get to another level of my own personal growth. And that's going to make me stronger and more resilient. So what I also want to say is, when stuff like this comes up for you, be grateful that you're aware of it, and be grateful that you get to work through it, because you get to come out the other side stronger. And again, I'm going to use my mantra for this call is, you're not going to dim my light. Like, I'm not going to dim my light because it makes you uncomfortable. Not going to happen. And I think that that's a huge part of this process, is that people want to shrink us. And I don't mean physically. Like, yes, we're shrinking physically, but they want to shrink our spirit. My spirit is not going to shrink. Sorry, not going to happen. my spirit is only going to grow as my body shrinks, right? That is what this is about, is creating that new you, right? Because that old you may have been playing small in your life because the body was holding you back, right? So with this, I just felt like some cool air on my face. It's like, with this, my hope for you guys is that you're able to recognize how you can gain strength in these situations instead of succumbing to the old habits of emotional eating. That's why I wanted to get on this live stream today, to empower you to grow through these struggles, to grow through the criticism and the judgment, to overcome them, to not turn to the food, to recognize that the food can also be an awareness for you. Like, okay, something's going on deeper, because the old pattern was turn to the food, turn to the food. And when you might recognize here, like, I'm turning to the food, I got to shift. Oh, what's going on with me emotionally? It's like sometimes that is what will help you or stop, bring you back to present with, oh, there's some heavy stuff I'm dealing with here. So I definitely encourage you guys. I know I've probably pepper sprayed through this live stream a bunch of different journaling questions and my mantra, which is I'm not going to dim my light to make you comfortable, and some other different tips. I hope that you guys use this. I hope that this inspires you. I also want to say that this is perfectly timed, as at the end of this month, I am opening up registration for the next series of the Overcome Emotional Eating group program. So, and those dates and deets are to come. But obviously each one of us is on our own individual path. I shared with you guys today how, this past week over 4th of July was a doozy. And if it wasn't for the skills and the tools that I've learned and that I share with my clients, I know that I probably would have turned to the food again, and I would have found comfort in that. And then I would have experienced guilt and shame and pain and all of those things. So, what I do want to share is that, if you are interested, go ahead and either send me a PM or write me at Kristin, Kristin, at bariatricmindset.com. I know I said it too fast in the first time, so I wanted to clarify. And tell me if you want to get on the waiting list. So we're going to probably start the middle towards the end of August, after most schools start, and we're going to go through mid-November. So we'll have 7 sessions. Again, I'll share all the deets. But if you guys are interested in that group program, it's going to be completely online, where we're going to do Zoom calls, and they will be recorded. So, and then I have a DIY course for similar content that's going to be coming out at the end of this month. So if you don't want to do a live call, and you'd like a course instead, that will be up and coming, which I'm excited about. So, anywho, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for having you guys join me in that process. Somebody keeps texting me, so that's why I'm like, so I'm really excited for you guys to join me in that process. If you want more information, again, hit me up in Bariatric Mindset Mavens and ask to get on the waiting list. So the other thing I wanted to share is, if you know somebody who's having difficulty with these issues, share this live stream. I'm also going to send out an email later. I'm going to have my my online business manager send this out with an email so that everybody else who hasn't been able to see this can see this, because I think that there's a lot of valuable tools that are going to be in this live stream for people to see and to recognize to recognize on this Monday. So I want to thank you guys for popping in here and share with me. And I know, because this is on Facebook, you may not want to share publicly, but go on into the group, because I'm going to share this in the group. if you guys are in there, Bariatric Mindset Mavens, go into the group and share privately what you may have experienced, or share privately how you're working through these issues in your own life, and share with us. Because I think that this is an important issue that people are not recognizing. Like, after the weight piece, like, okay, so you're not getting criticized about your weight anymore. What else are they doing to tear you down, right? So sorry, I got a phone call. So anyways, I wanted to share that with you. I hope you guys have an amazing Monday, an amazing rest of the week. Keep your eyes peeled for the group program, which is coming up. And I look forward to serving you more. I hope that this live stream has blessed you, and have a great day. Talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.